Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to Modernize or Die, CFML News Edition. It's October 12th, 122 episodes. Can't believe it. But here we are again.
There's a lot of ones and twos in that.
I
The
know.
episode, the date. This means something. This is important.
Yep, it must be. We're important, everybody, just so you know.
I didn't say we're important. I just said the ones and the twos are important. Like the Star Trek episode where they get stuck on the time loop and Spock or whoever sends back like the number 3 so it shows up everywhere and they go with the third option. Am I the only person that remembers that? Okay, never mind.
That sounds a little familiar. I haven't seen a lot of Star Trek lately, so
This is an old episode, so
yeah. I mean, I just haven't rewatched them all. You know, I used to watch them all as a kid, and waiting for my kids to get to the point where I can maybe watch them with them again. So we're doing Harry Potter since you started that phase, so we're almost done with all those movies and stuff. But anyway, apparently we're here to talk about CFML news, so let's start that.
So they tell us.
Yep. So I'm Gavin Pickin, and you are Brad Wood. And first, we want to thank our sponsors, Ortus Solutions. So without them, we wouldn't have things like ColdBox, CommandBox, ForgeBox, TestBox, and almost every other box out there. So obviously, they're doing a lot of things for the community. So the community, that's you, can also do a few things to say thanks back to Ortus Solutions. The most important one for us right now is go like and subscribe our videos on YouTube, and that way you'll get notifications when we go live. For those people that are in the chat right now heckling us or watching live, you get a few extra things if you're watching and chatting. But also, you can sign up for a free or a paid account on CFCasts, which is releasing new content every week, and including a whole ton of Into the Box videos that just got published. And of course, we have some books too. The most recent book is our 102 ColdBox HMVC Quick Tips and Tricks, which you can purchase on Gumroad. And Brad, what's the update on the CommandBox 103 Quick Tips and Tricks book?
Same place it was last time, which is I'm going to need a lot more free time.
Yep, so we have a title and that's it. So keep bugging Brad and maybe we'll get a few more of those tips in there and we'll get a book out for that soon.
You know, I posted a little tip of the day in the Ortus Slack team the other day, and Luis told me I needed to include it in the book. So maybe I should just start writing these down whenever I'm like, hey guys, here's a quick little thing you can do, and then eventually the book will just write itself.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's kind of the way Luis started his with a book, and open up a Google Doc, and every time you have something that comes up or you answer a question for somebody, there you go. It'll fill up pretty quick, I think.
I'm trying to find what it was that I had posted.
Oh, it was talking about looking for the data sources.
I know. I guess I know what it did at a high level. I was just trying to find the actual message here in Slack. I was gonna read it off, but apparently I suck. But yeah, I had a code base, and I wanted to find all of the CF query tags because it's a tag-based code base, and to get a unique list of all the data source names. And so I created a little quick one-liner in CommandBox that used file globbing to cat out the contents of all the CFM or CFC files, pipe that into the grep command to find like data source equals something, and then use the regular expression to pull out the data source name, and then pipe that into the unique command to filter down just the unique list. It wasn't that complicated, but I can't find the message right now.
Tip of the day, I've got it right here. It was, let me copy the link for you, Brad.
Where did I post it? How come I can't find it?
It was in Core on October 4th.
Oh, I'm looking at our CommandBox channel. What I have are too dang many Slack channels in my life.
Don't we all?
Scott Steinbeck has a good idea. Make a blog post for each tip and then just take the list of blog posts. Good, that takes more effort.
Yeah, these tips are a little short. I mean, but they're perfect for tweets. You could actually do that and just like do a hashtag and then pull them all in and format them. But yeah,
I could totally fit this into a tweet.
Yep. Anyway, while Brad is tweeting his mad thoughts around, we'll also thank our Patreon supporters. So we've dropped just below the 100% funding for this podcast now. We had a couple of Patreons who have not renewed their patronage, But we have 36 Patreons now, providing 89% of the funding for this podcast. And once we reach that goal again, we'll also be helping to fund other things like ForgeBox's awesome storage and other things in our goal list. But if you go to patreon.com/ordersolutions, you can see the different Patreon packages we have available. And some of them include cool things like CFCast subscriptions and also ForgeBox Pro account. So there are perks as you go up.
And since we're only like 98% funded right now, we can only give you 98% of the podcast, so we'll be stopping 5 minutes early. Sorry. I'm just kidding.
And remember, there are annual memberships now, so a lot of businesses prefer that. Pay once for the year, and you save 10%. So, but yeah, so we are lucky to have all those Patreons, and we'll tell you a little bit more about them at the end of the show. Okay, so let's get into our news and events. And the first thing up, Brad, is the CommandBox 5.4.2 release. So this one's got a patch update, and it has a couple of important bug fixes, right?
I don't know. I'm busy tweeting right now. You want me to talk about CommandBox?
Yeah. Well, the big thing was that we had a regression introduced in 5.4.0. We're updating the version of the CF engine doesn't work without forgetting the server first. That was kind of a major pain.
Tweet sent. Yeah, that was a regression that happened in 5.4. It had happened as part of our WebXML override feature. So we needed to get that out, obviously, because there were some people who had their production servers that weren't updating. There's also a security fix that's in this version of CommandBox. As usual, we don't really say what it was that was fixed, but thanks to Abram Adams for pointing that one out to us. So we do recommend that everybody go version of CommandBox, the 5.4.2. It's updated in Homebrew, on all of our download links. Our Docker images, the Ortus solution / CommandBox Docker images are all updated on the latest version to be used in this version of CommandBox. So make sure you take a minute and go through and update all of your Docker images and any CommandBox-based servers, just so you have all of the latest and greatest security features as well.
Yep. Well, speaking of security features, Google Drive updated some security recently, and it broke all the CFMLRepo links that I have up on the CFMLRepo site for anyone looking for older versions of installers for CF and Lucy, etc. So all of a sudden, I started getting, just 50, 60, 70 emails a day of like, I want access to this file. I want access to this file. Gosh. I'm like, oh, what happened? So
Is
I
this
finally
the thing
found
where
out.
Google Drive will like go through and pick files that it thinks you probably don't want to be shared, and it'll just change the permissions on it?
Well, they did a rollout of all permissions on October 7th or something. It was something just very recently where they basically applied a blanket permission update to everything. And then you can't just go pick the folder and, apply the remove permission or something. So you have to do it by the file. So basically, if you go and re-share the link,
ridiculous.
Well, if you re-share the link, it now has a special resource key on it, and by having the resource key, you're allowing them to access it or something. Anyway, I updated the link.
Changed the link. That's really lame that they would do that.
Yeah. So basically, you have to re-share your links if you have links out there. So it's fixed. So if you
I'm
looking for
curious
files,
if that affects the folder of ReaForge downloads that I have out on my personal Google Drive. I just gave that out to someone like a week ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you start getting requests, then it might be related. But yeah, it was kind of nice to see that many people using it. But at the same time, I was like, oh man, I really got to fix this because a lot of people are relying on it, and Google just changed something. So fixed it.
Go on Google.
Should be good now. I haven't seen as many warning requests. But yeah, CFMLRepo.com. Got lots of installers out there, and I even helped someone today on Twitter who was looking for a version of MX6. I did warn them about the security issues out there with using old version, but he wanted to get it up and running before he migrated it, so that's what the repo's for. Just wanted to make sure you're aware that CF6 is, 15 years old? So he probably shouldn't be running that in production. Speaking of old versions of Cold Fusion, Charlie put a really nice blog post out there with more detailed information about that CF9 and also CF8 ransomware attack. So I know we had a sort of an article about that a few weeks ago. It was all over Twitter, but Charlie dives into a lot more detail. So as Charlie does, we appreciate that. But this was interesting too.
His too long didn't read at the top is The most basic message to hear is get off CF9.
Yep. Or any version that's no longer supported.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but basically he was like saying, is CF9 really, impacted? And basically, yes, but apparently CF9 Update 2 looks, from what I've read, I didn't go into complete detail, it should have been fixed in that second update. So it looks like it's affecting CF9, 9.01, and 8 and 8.01, and CF7. So there's no fix offered for those. So looks like, yeah. Well, actually, it looks like, yeah. So it looks like there are some updates. So, but basically, CF9.2 is a separate installer. Not an update was released, incorporates the fix, so it's not vulnerable. But it looks like any CF8 update release 10 or later was not found. So essentially, don't use them. But if you are, it's telling you why, and also gives you more detail on, basically, if you are still on it, what should you do, and what if you're on newer versions, But basically, migrating is probably the answer there. I know it's a lot of work, but it's a big leap in leap in security, but also some cool features too. And then
right, and the CVE that they've been exploiting is related to the web-based administrator, which for decades the lockdown guide is always, I don't know if the lockdown guide existed for decades, but for many years the lockdown guide has always said don't even make this thing publicly accessible. So in the first place, you shouldn't even have your web-based administrator publicly accessible. But if you do, and you have a CF9 box out there on the internet, then you're definitely in need of some fixing. So I mean, if you're like in the middle of updating, you can certainly make sure you've blocked all access to the CFID administrator folder, and there's some other folders in there you might want to check out. But definitely don't let that be a crutch to say, oh, well, we're good now, we can just stay on it. This should hopefully be an impetus to you to finally get updated to Cold Fusion 2021, or if licensing is an issue, look at Lucy. But you got to do something. That's an incredible amount of technical debt you don't want to have bite you in the butt.
Yeah, and so Charlie's last two sections are what can you do if you're on CF9 or 8, and what should you do if you're on CF9 or 8 or 10, 11, 16. So, and again, it talks more about the attacks, and then, obviously Charlie does this for a living. He's a consultant who helps people with their servers, and so, if you need help too, and you want to maybe hire him, he can do that as well. But he has lots of great information, so if you want to do it yourself, check out that blog post. Definitely a good one. Thanks, Charlie. Yeah. And that was, he just said, Brad, that was indeed the last point of his too long didn't read. Don't just park on it with this fix. So, for sure.
All right, so in case you missed it, Into the Box 2021, which just happened a few weeks ago, those videos are available, and they are available on CFCasts, which is Ortus's video training website. So let's see, the show notes say free for subscribers. What does that mean? Subscribers of what? For CFCast subscribers?
Yeah, so if you're a paid subscriber to CFCasts, then you get the videos free. If you're not a paid subscriber, you've got a free account, but you were an ITB 2021 attendee, you should have received a coupon for access via email. If you haven't, you can contact the CFCast support page. And if you aren't one of those, so you're just got a free account and you didn't attend, you can still purchase just those videos for a one-time fee of $1.99. But with the subscription price so reasonable, you may as well just sign up and you can get all of those videos and everything else too. So, but if you just want to purchase one time, it's available for $1.99.
Didn't say it'd probably be easiest just to go ahead and purchase a subscription and just get all the content on the site than to only purchase the Into the Box videos.
Yep.
So I was trying to find our subscription prices, but apparently we don't advertise that anywhere you can actually find on our website.
Oh,
I've clicked about 10 times and I can't actually find. Oh, here they are. You got to scroll way down below the fold, way down. There we go.
So if you're a Patreon, bronze level or higher, guess what? You get them included free too.
Ooh.
So
good point. Yeah.
Yep.
The best way to go with it.
Yep.
Yeah, I was excited to see they get those up super fast, as Gavin well knows, because he's been in charge of it in years past. Going through and editing hours of these video recordings and getting them produced and put up can be a huge time suck. So they had pretty good turnaround time getting everything posted, which was nice, so people don't have to wait for the online version of the Into the Box content.
Yeah, I mean, we did go Zoom because of the hybrid approach, and so usually what we do is we have like separate video and audio feeds, and we put them all together, which gives us the best quality video and audio, but it takes a lot longer to edit. So this is what everybody, got. We went in and fixed audio, and if you do find an issue with some of the audio on one of them or something, let us know. We are willing to go and try and do some cleanup on some of those. And there are a couple of speakers, we won't name names, will we, Brad, that like to walk around. And so when they walk, sometimes the microphone issues do come into play.
Call them walkers.
Yep, we got a walker. But so some of those, the volume is a little lighter, and so if you get one of those videos, let us know. We're gonna try and basically even out the audio to make it even and clear. One of the things we can't do live on Zoom, but after the fact we can do some magic. So, but yeah, so go check those out. They're all available now. So even the keynotes, and the keynotes are on on YouTube as well. If you just want to watch the keynotes, lots of great content there, showing all the most recent stuff, including one of the things we announced was CommandBox version 5 was released. So in case you missed it, that's available. We have the marketing site updated, the docs are updated, the blog post is out for the release, and a lot of work went into re-architecting that. And yeah.
No, you said it wrong. According to the show notes, it says re-architecturing. That sounds like a Luisism right there.
It's quite possible that he wrote that.
It says this has been a work over 1 year with a complete refocus and re-architecturing of the core. Sounds like journalisming or whatever Ben Shapiro says. Making up words.
Well, it doesn't say funky, so I can't be sure it was Luis.
True, yeah. If it said getting funky, then we'd know for certain Luis had typed it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm surprised it says we are professional, open source, free forever, and funky. Then I'd know it's him.
Funky.
Yep. Anyway, so that has been released. Go check it out on the Ortus Solutions website, or you can go to contentboxcms.org for the marketing site. And Dan Card says, yet grammatically it's not incorrect. Too funny. So we had another big announcement or release this week too, in case you missed it. Modernize or Die podcast, not this one, the Soapbox edition, was relaunched this week. So it's available up. We actually have it on the CFCasts website. We have it on YouTube, I believe, and the soapbox.modernizeordie.io website, where you can get the podcast audio. Also has all the show notes there too. So we have a special community edition, anniversary edition with Eric Peterson being the first one released, and we have several more coming. So go check that out, soapbox.modernizeordie.io. And again, you can see that on CFCasts. We also have a webinar coming up. So if you did go into the box, or even if you didn't, I had a session called Quick Building APIs. And I had a pretty detailed, thorough code example. Lots and lots and lots of slides. If you've ever been to one of my presentations, you're like, how did he get through so many slides?
And to be clear, when you say building quick APIs, you don't just mean an API that doesn't take a lot of time to build. You also mean using the actual quick library, the ORM that Eric Peterson manages.
Yes.
Which does also make it take less time to build the API, but it's a quick API.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, building quick APIs. And yeah, so it's basically using CommandBox built-in REST handler. We're going to use CFML Security, quick ORM, using fluent query language from QB on top of Quick. So we have a really cool set of tools. And then I'm basically doing an extended version of that talk. So at the talk, it's usually like 45 minutes. So this webinar, I'm probably going to, basically go over the talk, maybe with some edits, and then keep going. So take a little more time.
8 hours.
Yeah, I'm thinking we could probably make a 3-day workshop out of it, but, at least take a little more time and dive into a little bit more and get more feedback questions as we go, and really sort of dive into it, because this is the way we build APIs now. And I'm actually, every step in here is basically what I've taken on a couple of big client projects that I'm working on right now. So it's it's a really cool one, and I wanted that to be very detailed, so you could basically take it on your own, walk through the steps, and check out like all 30 versions of the API that I have there, so you can see every single
you sort of
decision and step.
you progressively build onto it over the course of the talk.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, what do I do first? Well, I need to make a module for the API. Okay, well, now I need a route. Well, how do I add a route? Like very detailed. Yep. So hopefully this can be your guide to getting started with your own quick API.
Between the REST base handler, which is built into CommandBox now, and the CB security module, which you can just pull down off ForgeBox, and the quick ORM, I mean, we've really refactored kind of the stuff that we were doing over and over again every time we would build an API for a client or for one of our projects. And there's just a ton of out-of-the-box functionality that you're just dropping in that you just have to use now. I mean,
even in that, I'm like, I can make this more efficient. I can make helpers for this and that. And so we just keep making it better. And
there isn't a faster, easier way to build a robust API in Cold Fusion. The power you're getting with all these tools combined is pretty great. So
yeah,
if you've been using like Cold Fusion's built-in REST or whatever, definitely take a look at the power you're getting with CommandBox, because there's just a lot more stuff you can tap into.
Yeah,
if you need it.
Yeah, so definitely come check that out. We'll be diving deeper, and like I said, if you were at the presentation from Into the Box or seeing the video, that's cool. Obviously, a lot of it will be rehashed for you, but there'll be more detail, more depth. So definitely come check it out. And if you haven't been to either of them, it'll still be good to see that. So that signups are available. If you go to events/webinars on the Ortus Solutions website, you can sign up and get that webinar. And that is going to be, I think, October 22nd. I got to click on it myself to see. I forget the date. Yep, so October 22nd, 11 a.m. Central Time, and it's with me. So go register today. Okay, next up, for those watching, you get to see the cool Hacktoberfest shirt that I have on. So I finally remembered to wear one. But Hacktoberfest is going on right now. So Hacktoberfest 2021. And it's basically GitHub's a big sponsor. And GitLab is now available to work with these open source projects. So if you sign up, make 4 pull requests, you can basically get a reward. You can win a reward. One of these t-shirts is one of the options. And also, if you want to be more socially conscious, you can plant a tree. They'll plant a tree in your name as well. So the trick is that you need to have a repo or a pull request tagged with Hacktoberfest. And we've tagged a bunch of repos from Ortus. But if you want to do something, maybe you want to contribute some docs or whatnot, and it doesn't have it, let us know and we can tag it or tag your pull request. But for a pull request, you can get a shirt or a tree. It's a pretty good deal. So, yeah, and as we mentioned, docs is a great way to do it. So if you see some docs, you see some grammar, some issues, something missing, you want to add something, make a pull request. It's really easy with our Git books. And yeah, you can get that completed. So it has to be completed by October 31st. It does not have to be merged by then, but as long as it's accepted by then, you'll get credit. So
yeah, the maintainers can put a tag, I believe, on it that'll mark it as accepted, even if they're not ready to merge it.
Yep. So you can go to hacktoberfest.digitalocean.com to find out more about it. They got a little video, some marketing there. It's pretty festive for sure.
I actually just completed my sign up for this year. I hadn't officially signed up yet. And they have a few more pages than they used to. I signed in with GitHub, and you have to tell them if you want to subscribe to 57 different mailing lists and everything. But it's I literally did it while you were talking, doing the little intro, so it took 20 seconds.
Yeah, sounds good. But yeah, so we've got some premium partners in here, some other partners.
And I've checked most all of the Ortus repos that I manage, and the docs for the CommandBox, CommandBox itself, most of our major modules, all of those have the Hacktoberfest tag. And if you want to submit something to one of our Ortus repos and you don't see the Hacktoberfest tag, just ask us and we'll easily add it on there. Unfortunately, there doesn't appear to be an easy way to mark just all of the repos for your entire organization, which kind of sucks because we have dozens and dozens and dozens of repos spread across 10 different organizations for Ortus. So they don't necessarily make it incredibly easy, unfortunately. At least not for maintainers.
Yep. And they do some events too, so check it out. Sometimes they have in person. They also have some online virtual like hackathons and stuff, and they're trying to get people engaged. And we did it at our JavaScript meetup a couple of years ago, and it's pretty cool. And they'll send you swag and stuff, and obviously if you participate and get your pull request done, get a shirt out of it and some stickers and whatever else they send. And the cool thing is they actually have a whole bunch of like my first repo ones out there where they basically have some dummy repos that people learn how to do pull requests with, and so a lot of times you can get one of your pull requests from doing something like that. So yeah, and I think it even works on your own repo, which is kind of crazy. So
I can send myself a pull request.
Yeah, I think you can. And
pull request coming up.
So once you have signed up, you'll see your profile, and you'll see there's four little things here that we'll see, so you can see how many are completed, and then how many are in progress, which basically they have a certain period they have to review. So once I made my pull request, they should start showing up in here. So you got your own little profile. Yeah, and I will tweet about it right after the show.
The website's very like pumpkin spice themed looking this year. Got the oranges and browns.
I'm wondering if it's going to be an orange shirt this time, because the last couple they've had like a blue with some pinks and purples. The previous shirt was almost like a salmon color, and it's really comfortable. That's the thing. The shirts themselves are amazing. You said you can't even keep yours in your closet. Your kids keep stealing them.
Yeah, I was trying to find a Hacktoberfest shirt to wear today for the podcast, and my daughter usually steals all my cool looking shirts, which includes anything from JFrog right off the bat, and most of my Hacktoberfest shirts all end up in her closet. So
yeah,
it's a lost cause. Even my Heroku socks, she totally stole them.
Yeah, socks always disappear from me too. But anyway, so go get involved. It's a good project, and get it rewarded for learning how to do a pull request. So we also have Adobe Workshops coming up. So November 10th, we have the all-day workshop with Damien Brewing Donks. Bad pronunciation, I'm sure.
I've never known how to pronounce his name. I've seen it for years. I don't know how to say it.
Yep, we'll have to have him give us a video on how to say that. But totally. Yeah, the Cold Fusion Workshop, as Charlie mentioned, it's meant to be something similar to what you would cover in the certification, but we're not sure. It definitely has a wider range of items on the agenda, but you can go to Cold Fusion Workshop, coldfusion-workshop.meetus.adobeevents.com, or go to coldfusion.adobe.com, the portal, and click on upcoming events, and you'll see it there. So that wraps up our news for today. But next up, we have our CFCast content. So in here, CFCast this last week, we've had a couple things posted out. So we have all of the Into the Box 2021 videos in there now, as we mentioned. And then after that, we have had the Soapbox relaunch. So the ColdBox Anniversary Edition with Eric Peterson. And so we got quite a few videos there for you. And we are going to be continuing this week, releasing the last few up and running with quick workshop videos. So we've still got a few left in that series. If you've been following along, I think we're about 80% of the way through, so there's still some more videos to come, and you'll be seeing more of those this week. So again,
does the up and coming, sorry, I can't say it, up and running with quick series, does that cover everything you're doing in your webinar, or is that a more in-depth? Or is that really kind of just a different topic entirely? Just happens to also use quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of great stuff in there, and things I'm doing in the webinar is, basically high-level highlighted pieces of that. But Up and Running with Quick goes into obviously more detail, explains more of everything. And to be honest,
it sounds like it's sort of complementary. If people watch your webinar and get an overview of Quick, they could start watching the CFCast series to really dig into more of the Quick stuff then.
Yeah, because I mean, that's the good thing with Quick. You can look at it and understand what it's doing. But to write it, you may need a little more help. And so the Up and Running with Quick is like, okay, I actually want to write my own Quick app. And in that one, Eric is actually showing you how to write a blog. It's pretty cool. So he works through. And that's basically the videos from his 2-day workshop on Quick. So if you want to start using Quick, I definitely recommend that video series there. But yeah, you'll see what you can do with Quick in the API webinar for sure.
Cool. Talk to me about Vue.js Conf.
Yeah, so Vue.js Conf is going to be online and in person in London on 20th and 21st of October. And so that's UK time, obviously, so I wonder how it'll translate for us. It's like a 12-hour time difference, I think, to Pacific time. But there's remote and in-person tickets available, and they have workshops and everything too. That looks like it is a paid remote ticket, so it's not one of the free online ones now.
So it says times below are shown in your local browser time zone, and it starts at 9 a.m., which means they're probably doing afternoon time slots in London, is my guess. Because they're probably like, what, 6-hour offset? I don't know what it is this time of day or this time of year. It's kind of nice.
Yep, it's definitely a pretty website.
Let's see it. Does it use Vue? It better.
Yep. So, yeah, a lot of cool things in it. Obviously, you got lots of big speakers. I recognize quite a few of these, but it's always good content. VueConf. This is the European one. There should be one in the US. Usually, I think it's in March, around that time period. But you could see lots of good content there. And there are some free workshops, and there are pro workshops as well. And they're trying to make it a networking setup as well. So if you're looking for some Vue conference material, that should be a good one. That's, again, October 20th, 21st. Go to vuejslive.com to find out more about it. Then we have a Microsoft Ignite conference November 2nd through the 4th. And this one, it looks like it's spotlighting Microsoft business applications and Microsoft security. So maybe it's higher level stuff. It's not like deep in the code on some things. But it basically may be something you guys are interested in. So that's November 2nd through 4th, and it looks like that is free to sign up. myignite.microsoft.com.
So MyIgnite, not your Ignite.
No, MyIgnite. Yep.
I gotta know, was ignite.microsoft.com already taken? Was there a reason it needed to be MyIgnite?
I don't know. I'm sure you'll tell us.
Yeah. No, if I go to ignite.microsoft.com, it just redirects to MyIgnite.
Interesting.
Huh. You know, it's like kind of like websites that used to put the word get, like Rilo.com was always getrilo.com. I never really understood. I always assumed, honestly, when I saw people do that the domain name they wanted was taken.
Yeah.
So they would just slap another word in front of it, you know.
That's what I would assume too. So, okay. We also have Adobe ColdFusion CFSummit 2021. And so December 7th and 8th is a virtual conference. Apparently the speakers are now finalized, and some of the speaker and session information is available on the site. So if we go look, we can show those watching at home. So it is free. We have some speakers, so there's some we recognize like Brian and Mark Takata. Charlie will be there, Pete Freitag. You know, we've seen Brian Sappi and Mike Brunt. We've got Ray Camden. We've also got Jessica, who's been the last few as well. But we also have some new faces too. So they're trying to add another track of non-CF content. So I think Coralie is speaking about UI UX stuff. And Corbin, I forget what Corbin's session was on, but Mary's a new face too. And I think Zach is a new face. So as you can see, there are some sessions in here. So building the next generation of secure developers is Ray Bango. So I don't even see a picture for him yet. But Corbin's talking about Gatsby, that's right. So, you know, server-side rendering and that type of stuff for React. Also, we got the usual crew, Pete and Nolan are speaking, Matthew Clemente. So Zach is talking about machine learning. Interesting.
Maybe you mentioned it. I think George Murphy's in the list too. Is one of our tuitions, right?
Yep, George will be there, and his session isn't listed here. So there's a good amount of session information and speakers, but I think they're still adding to the website. Although the list is apparently finalized and everything, so we should be hearing all that information very soon. And if you want more conferences, don't forget comps.tech is a great site and has lots of different conferences for almost any language and community. So you can find out more there. And they do list online and in person. Okay.
All right, let's keep moving.
Well, Charlie made something real quick. He's actually updated his blog post because you said about blocking admin access is another good thing to do. So he's updated it. So there you go, Brad. You're making waves.
Perfect.
So
not that any of these people hosting Cold Fusion 9 are using CommandBox, but for what it's worth, CommandBox defaults to production mode when it starts a server, and in production mode, it automatically blocks access to the Cold Fusion administrator. So just a random side note for those security-minded people. If you're using CommandBox to host your server, you actually have to go out of your way to make the administrator publicly accessible. So
yeah, trying to do the secure first. Like
secure by default. Yeah, it's more of a pain, but you just kind of got to do it these days.
Yep. Because everyone, I know that ColdBox used to make it where it was dev mode, and no one ever updated things to production when we wanted it. So
yeah, and that's exactly the problem. People never change the defaults. I don't know how many ColdBox sites I've seen with the out of the box error handler in production because nobody ever goes in and changes it. So it's
for
something
sure.
you gotta do.
Cool. So the first blog post, we're obviously been talking about Charlie's blog post on beware of the ransomware attacks, and so that is the first one on our list. But we also have a video, and this one is from Scott Hanselman, and it's not Cold Fusion related, but it's developer related. So Windows 11 now runs graphical Linux apps out of the box with the WSLG. So I hadn't actually seen any of these Windows 11's videos before, but the whole integration with Linux is quite frankly amazing. I'm super excited about this because I've been thinking about running Linux on my laptop for a while, but you always have those audio drivers or video driver issues and stuff, and someone's on POP this week and next week they're using Mint, and it's not really that stable. They keep changing, and so I haven't taken the plunge yet. But looking at the way Windows 11 runs with Linux, I mean, they're all with VMs, and you have Terminal, which, by the way, you want to watch this video, Brad, because they're using Bullet Train and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, they're trying to look like CommandBox. So all the terminal features are pretty awesome. You can pick the flavor of Linux that you actually want to be running on and using, and the integration between like Windows Explorer and the Linux VMs, everything just works. When you run something, it'll run it in the VM style that you want. It's pretty dang amazing, to be honest.
I'm curious how these apps work. So from understanding graphical Linux apps, I assume that means an app you would run normally on a Linux desktop that has like a window you're interacting with. How is that showing up just like in the middle of your Windows desktop as something you can minimize? Or do you have to go in like a separate,
So the cool thing is you're in your terminal, you're running Debian or whatever, you install something like the GIMP, so you want the image program because you don't want to use Photoshop anymore. You don't want to pay for it. So you install that inside your command line, and then Windows automatically detected that you installed a graphical app from Linux. And then now in your start menu, you have the little icon. You click it, it actually has like a invisible border on it, so it looks like a native app, but it's the Debian app. It has the Debian styles, the formatting, everything is, it's basically like Parallels or whatever it used to be if you run it on PC and Mac, like you would basically run a PC app inside your Mac, and it had this little weird border, but it makes it look seamless. It's pretty slick. And so that cool. is really a Windows 11 thing, but like Charlie said in the chat, most of those other things you can do with Windows 10 already. But I hadn't even, I've done a little bit of the Windows subsystem for Linux, but just the way that everything was so integrated, and the graphical apps even show up, I was like blown away. But the terminal and all that, it's just smooth, it's clean, and I'm just grumpy because I built my laptop to be amazing 5 years ago, and it's still like better than most laptops out there, but the CPU is just like one version too damn old for Windows 11. I'm like, it's still amazing, but apparently it's not quite the right version. So I could install it, but I might not get updates, so I'm hoping that they backtrack a year or two, or I can throw a newer CPU in it or something, because I love my laptop, it's awesome. But anyway, so I might have to like experiment with all the Windows 10 Windows subsystem stuff, but it's pretty cool. So go watch the video. It's really short too. It's like 18 minutes or something, but there's a ton of awesome stuff in it. And so that's on YouTube. So I'm pretty excited about all that stuff. Okay, next up. So this is something that I didn't realize happened either. Did you know anything about the query param value in like Lucy? Basically, instead of giving it a list, and you put list equals true for the param for an end statement. If you actually give it an array, it'll convert it to a list for you.
No, I'd never known that. It's been a while since I've used the list attribute, even though I've totally used it in the past. I think I missed that. And I did see that tweet from Ben, but I hadn't actually clicked on it to read it. Just confirming, you're saying that is a Lucy only feature?
It looks like it. That's what he's playing with it, and I guess we could try it elsewhere. And like I said, usually, if you those watching, you'll see here, you do like an ID in, and then in your query param, you give it, an array of IDs, and you do a to list, and then you tell it the type, and the list equals true, and that works. And like I said, I've done that. That's the traditional. It works everywhere.
CFDocs has no mention of that. Let's see if Lucy's docs actually mentions it. So the value is string on CFDocs, but it's any on Lucy's docs. And yeah, it says you can also pass an array as the value, which is automatically handled like list equals true.
Yep. So
Lucy's docs are up to date. So here you go. You want a pull request? This is something that's out of date on the CFDocs, which is all stored as JSON in a GitHub repo. So update the CF query param tag and the CF docs to mention this Lucy specific behavior. That'll be your first pull request of the month.
Yep. So that's pretty cool. See, now I've been spoiled using Quick and QB lately, and if you give it, a query param with an array, I thought it was doing something under the covers to turn it into a list, but it might have just been passing it down. So I know you can do it with Quick and QB in Adobe. So I don't know if there's some processing it does. So Eric will have to let us know, or I'll have to dive into the source code. But it is pretty cool. So again, it's just one less thing you have to do, convert it to a list.
Yeah, I think a lot of the libraries and framework stuff that Luis and I mean, not just Luis and I, but Ortus people do. Anytime we allow a list of items, we usually also allow an array of items just to give people the flexibility. And if you're passing in dynamic values and you don't know if they have a comma in them, it kind of gets rid of having to worry about escaping commas and things like that. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool to know about.
Yep, and like I say, I get spoiled with Quick and QB because they do that all the time. But yeah, it's pretty neat. So next up we have Brad Wood talking about CommandBox 5.4.2. So is there anything you think we missed there?
No, we pretty much hit that earlier, which is make sure you update everything. Got some regressions and that security fix. So everything's up to date. Docker images, all the download links, homebrew. Just update your servers to 5.4.2.
Yep.
That's the latest release you want to be on.
Now, did you get the Yum stuff working? I know we had some issue where Yum wasn't updating for some people, but was for others or something?
Well, Yum was not updating at all, it turns out. And there was something missing on our Jenkins build server after we'd moved to DigitalOcean. And Kai had pointed out in the Box Team Slack. I think it's fixed, but I'm not sure. It works for me. It works for another person who tested it. Kai said it still wasn't working for him. So flip a coin as to whether or not it's actually fixed. But it should be, from all that I can tell, should be updating.
It might just be that New Zealand's ahead in some ways and behind in others, because he lives in New Zealand and time zones and weird stuff, maybe.
Time zones and weird stuff.
Yeah.
That's the technical explanation for you folks at home.
So next up, we have another blog post from Ben, and this one's interesting. So he's using a where true to create dynamic queries. And so basically, it's one of those things where you have all your if statements because you're filtering a query, and you don't know if the first item is going to be true or not, so you don't know if you're going to actually include it with an and. So if you just do where true or where 1 equals 1 or something like that, then all your if statements can just have and whatever your SQL you want, and sort of you build your query, right? He was basically looking into this to see if that actually messes up the query planner. And so, you have the where true and then all these if ands in your query building, and he's using tag islands here, which is pretty cool. But so he was curious and wanted to find out if that where true, that basic constant condition, was going to play havoc with the query plan. And so he went through and did some explains with some tables with lots and lots and lots of records. And basically in MySQL, it did what it should do and ignore it. And so basically, it didn't even care about the constant. It didn't mess up the query plan or anything else. and basically it comes back correctly like it should. The interesting thing is, I wonder what the other database engines do.
Well, I've always done where 1 equals 1 in SQL Server. I don't know that you can just do where true, but I'd have to test it.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I've used this trick for years, and you have a bunch of if statements and optional filtering stuff, and I'll just do where 1 equals 1, and then you just slap on and blah down below, and I've never seen it cause any problem.
Yeah, and several people saying they've always used where 1 equals 1, or whatever. But yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting, and I never really thought about the query planner piece, But then again, it's one of those things where that many possible different changes in it, it's probably not going to have too much repeating anyway. And if it sees the same thing, then make a new query plan, go from there. But
yeah, I mean, my rule of thumb usually with performance is I look into things that are actually slow. I don't typically spend a lot of time trying to pre-optimize something. If it's currently executing in a reasonable amount of time, then I don't bother messing with it. And I don't think I've ever had a query like this in which I was like, oh my gosh, this is slow, let me look into it. So I'd never even honestly considered it, because I'd never had problems with a query that used this. So
yeah,
I'm not surprised that the optimizer is smart enough. That's one of the most complex and smart parts of most database engines, is the query optimizer that figures out how to actually translate your SQL into what it's going to do behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm kind of just curious, like, how each engine does it differently, though. Because usually they're all pretty smart, but they're sometimes different. So I was just kind of curious. But the other thing too is using Quick in QB. Obviously, you don't need to worry about that, because when you're using QB, it'll build the query as you need it. You just add a where part of your builder and give all the where commands, and QB puts them all together for you. So you don't have to worry about how many if statements or what's the first where. Like using QB, it'll handle it for you. So I always spouting on about it, but it's really, that's what QB is built for making.
Did you tell Ben that on Twitter? Because I don't remember if I saw you say that to him, or if I was just thinking to myself, man, he really needs to start using QB.
Yeah, I didn't say it because we're always telling Ben, hey, you should do this, you need to do this, you need to do that, and Ben's fine. He doesn't need to, but these things might be useful. Well, and, I mean, Query Builder might be a useful addition, and I mean, it can be a pretty cool thing when you're doing some complex queries. It really does make it more readable, more maintainable.
I mean, the thing is, I love the curiosity and learning stuff, but in the Cold Fusion world, there are a lot of solved problems, right? There's a lot of problems that have been solved, and many of them for years and years and years. And it's like, start using libraries like QB, and you can take advantage of the problems QB has had solved for many years. I mean, the same with CommandBox, the same with everything. Sometimes I feel like people put a lot of work into resolving problems that have been solved for a very long time with existing libraries. So anyway, I love the experimentation and the curiosity, but there's a good chance that for solving a problem, there's a library out there that's already solved it, which is why I usually say, why aren't you using XYZ? Like, we've solved these problems already. These problems that exist when you're taking advantage of the modern tooling Cold Fusion has. But anyway, that's my rant for today. Try QB, Ben. Do it. Just do it, man. You'll love it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. But Charlie also mentions, talking about the database thing, that SQL Server 2019 does not support the true. It does support 1 equals 1 and stuff, but other people say you can just do where 1. So the engines do treat things a little differently. Obviously try it and see. And then Will says, sometimes you spend days fixing issues in libraries too. So he said,
well, that's a different conversation entirely, right? I didn't say libraries don't have bugs. I said they've solved problems, right? So you're conflating. That's a non sequitur. That's what that is.
Yeah, but he says they're wonderful libraries, but everything has a bug, and yep. But we make it better, so I solve the bugs, so someone else doesn't have to. So,
make Eric solve your bugs.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna keep going. We're 10 minutes till 1, and we've barely scratched the surface.
We're doing pretty good here. The last thing was a task runner that you helped Scott work on called Playwright. You want to give us a 5-minute overview of what this does?
So Scott Steinbeck had bugged me, and he was trying to use something I'd never heard of. It's a Microsoft library called Playwright, and I'm sure it does like 1,000 things more than what I fooled around with because it looked pretty powerful. But basically, it's kind of funny because it's a Java library, but it actually just wraps a bunch of node libraries that use like Chromium, sort of like the headless browser stuff. And what Scott Steinbeck wanted to do with it was basically to generate screenshots on the fly of URLs. So Scott kind of had some questions about how to interact with the Java classes, which I've done quite a bit now, and I've kind of gotten used to some of the little weird things. So I got it working, and I wrapped it up in just a little standalone task runner, honestly, because it was just really convenient to be able to just send that back to Scott over Slack and say, here, just throw this in a directory and run task run. Boom, you're done. And so obviously you could extract this and you could put it into any Cold Fusion application. But if you look at the top, you got it shared on your screen there. Downloaded a bunch of jars just using the good old fashioned install command, right? So that grabs some jars. There are quite a few jars this requires. And then you basically just create some Java classes. You say, visit this URL and then screenshot it and then save it in this file. And then at the bottom of my task runner, I actually open up the PNG file that was saved. So it's kind of fun to play with. And honestly, like once I got all the pieces, working, all the jar files downloaded, it just kind of worked. It downloads some stuff on the fly the first time it runs. But yeah, I mean, you can just, punch in like, yahoo.com or whatever. It'll load that up in this little Chromium headless browser, take the screenshot, and then, pop the image open.
So Scott just said it's not shared.
Yeah, what do you mean by that, Scott?
In the tweet that I shared, there's a link in the tweet. Maybe that's what you're missing there. But yeah, it should be in there. Oh no, we've talked about all these blogs. We had the wrong picture up. Man, oh well.
Yeah, it's a public gist. So if you can click the link in that tweet, and it'll show the gist. And if you want to play with it, you can just save that as task.cfc. And I had the syntax on how to call it with a custom URL down below. He was saying this code in your screen was not shared. Yeah, I'm not sure. I was able to see it while I was talking, but anyway, yeah, I mean, that's basically it. It's a cool library. You can generate screenshots, on the fly of pretty much anything you can hit in the browser. And it's pretty easy to integrate with Cold Fusion, just being able to wrap a Java library. I didn't even know what Scott was going to do with it, but it looked pretty cool. So if you ever thought to yourself, if only I could take a screenshot. And I think there's all sorts of settings you can do, like changing like the type of browser and the settings about the browser. I really only poked at just enough of the Java docs to make the basic example work.
Yeah, I know a lot of that stuff. They use stuff like, I think Playwright's built with some Puppeteer stuff. But basically, whenever you're using JavaScript, you can't take a screenshot until you wait for the JavaScript to run. And so if you use the browser like that, it actually will generate all the maps with the JavaScript and do whatever. Then you can take a screenshot of it afterwards and PDF it or whatever you need to. So I know Scott does a lot of things like that with some of his agricultural mapping software.
Yeah, I'm thinking that there was a setting. I don't know if I was using it. I thought there was a setting that was like how long to wait for the page to load. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
Because I did hit some stuff that I think loaded in with JavaScript, and I think it worked. I didn't play with it a ton.
Cool.
All right. Anyway, that's really all there is for that. It's fun, and you can play with it with my task runner. I'm sure there's 1,000 things that can be done to make it better. That was just a proof of concept.
Cool. Well, let's talk about find a job. Let's share the screen here for those watching. So we have about 8 or 9 new jobs this week. So we got a Cold Fusion developer in Washington D.C. We also got one in South Bend, Indiana. We've got some in Virginia. So we got some senior position as well. A couple of remote ones in Richmond. These may be duplicates too. So obviously click on them for more information. But it looks like we got Illinois, Virginia, DC, Maryland, so quite a few different jobs all over the place. And again, getcfmljobs.com has all that, and they scrape a lot of different sites to pull it in, and people can post for free as well if they want. So get in there and find a job if you're looking. Okay, next up we have ForgeBox module of the week, and this week we're going to talk about LaunchDarkly SDK. So this is one of those things where Ben Nadel has done something pretty cool with LaunchDarkly. He made his own little CFC or whatever, and it looks like someone has actually made it into a ForgeBox module for him. Was that you, Brad, or was it somebody else?
Sorry, what? I was answering a question on CFML Slack and I stopped listening to you.
I was saying the LaunchDarkly module on ForgeBox is our module of the week, and Ben had obviously built a CFC for working with LaunchDarkly, and it looks like someone from Ortus has wrapped it up and made an SDK. Was that you?
Yes, I wrote it.
Okay.
So Mary Jo Sminkley, who works for CF Web Tools, wanted to use LaunchDarkly for one of her clients, and they've contracted through Ortus to help them out with updating our Couchbase SDK and other stuff. And so she had bugged me and said, "Hey, can Ortus make like a real live official kind of Cold Fusion SDK for LaunchDarkly?" And so that's exactly what we did. And so it wraps the Java SDK, but it, wraps it up in CFML real nice. So it's, loosely typed to the extent it's possible. You can pass, Cold Fusion closures, and we translate them through to, Java lambdas, which still kills me that neither Adobe nor Adobe have, sorry, I just said Adobe twice. Neither Adobe nor Lucy have taken seriously Luis's tickets to make that be a native feature of Cold Fusion. Actually, I think Lucy 6 might have that, but Lucy 6 might as well not exist since there's like no end in sight for when we'll ever actually get it. But anyway, yeah, there's some things that are a bit of a pain to manually interface with Java libraries. So that's what the SDK does for you. LaunchDarkly is pretty nice, honestly. I've always kind of thought feature flag libraries are dumb. I think feature flags are fine. I've always thought like having a whole library just to manage what's basically a Boolean variable was sort of lame. I mean, like, just create a cold box setting, you're done, right? But when Mary Jo had asked me to look into LaunchDarkly and what it would take to make a proper SDK, I realized they actually do quite a bit more than just yes/no flags, right? First of all, you manage your flags in this LaunchDarkly website. You pay for it, right? They have their own, dashboard where you can manage the flags. And one of the whole kind of points is, a marketing person or a business analyst or the CEO of your small company, they could be the person that goes in and clicks the button and activates the flag on an idle, Tuesday afternoon because they want to release the feature. So, it really separates that from having to push a new version of your code. The flags are more than just Booleans, right? You can have strings, you can have numbers, you can have entire like JSON data structures. You can get kind of complex about what you're turning on and off. And what's really nice is they're not all just global, right? It's not just the features on, the features off. You can do these really nice segmenting where you say, I want all of the users with an admin role that live in Kansas and have purchased something in the last 6 months. I want 20% of them to have the feature turned on. And LaunchDarkly does all of that for you. It creates those segments, and you just have to send those details about each user inside the call, and it'll automatically, turn stuff on and off for these kind of cross-cutting segments of your users. And so when I saw some of that stuff, I was like, well, that's actually pretty freaking cool. It's a lot more powerful than I'd originally kind of thought with just, an if statement, right? And the other thing you can do, which I just added support for this morning, is you can register a closure, a little, Cold Fusion closure, and say, call this anytime a flag is changed. And the Java SDK keeps this, I don't know if it's a WebSocket or what it is, but it keeps a connection open to the LaunchDarkly websites. And I tested it. It works. It's really great. I can go into the LaunchDarkly website. I can, enable a flag, and immediately it'll push that change out to my Cold Fusion web server, and it'll run my closure and say, this flag just updated. Here's the new value. And so your websites don't have to wait for the next request to respond. You can have code that instantly within milliseconds fires and changes whatever you need it to based on that flag update. And that's also super powerful because not only do you not need to, deploy code, but you can actually get these like live push, updates where someone clicks a button on the website and your running web application with the SDK just comes into play. So cool. The SDK is written as a ColdBox module, but it doesn't require ColdBox. You can use it with Wirebox standalone, which Mary Jo is, or it can just be a straight up 100% legacy thing you drop in. It's basic enough. I made it support the whole gamut of possibilities. So if you're using ColdBox, great, right? Box install, LaunchDarkly SDK, you're done. It automatically manages the creation, the shutdown. It all just works, right? Unicorn, fairy, magic, pixie dust, and stuff. If you're not using CommandBox, forget about it. Install it like before. You just have to create the CFC yourself, and you need to make sure you shut it down when your application reinits. And you have to provide the configuration manually. But outside of that, there's nothing CommandBox specific in it. So don't let that prevent you from playing around with it. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've got a whole kind of unit test suite. And I signed up for a trial of LaunchDarkly because, again, it's not a free service from what I've seen. But yeah, that's LaunchDarkly, and I literally just finished writing it yesterday, and I was making some updates today. I have several ideas that I'm gonna try to add into it, such as it will use a local cache, and I'm gonna write an adapter to like maybe use Couchbase since they don't support that out of the box. They do support Redis out of the box. But it's a pretty simple SDK, and I have everything there in the README to play around with. So now Ben has yet another thing to play around with.
Yep.
My version of it.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I liked checking that out, and I know that there's a couple other feature flag things that have popped up on ForgeBox lately, so maybe
Unleash is one that Eric made recently. So there's at least a couple of them. I've only vaguely looked at Unleash, but I kind of want to compare them side by side just to see, because I'm curious if Unleash has the stuff like the automatic kind of like event pushes like LaunchDarkly does. Because that's really pretty sweet.
Yeah,
I had no clue that kind of stuff even existed.
Yeah, that's pretty new and cool sounding to me too.
The only real downside, honestly, is the fact that you have to pay. You have to pay to use LaunchDarkly, and a lot of the really sweet stuff, like the segmented user groups, is all like an enterprise license. I mean, I get it; they have to make money. Unfortunately, that means you can't really play with it for free. I don't know. They may have a free version of the account. I didn't look too closely. I literally created a 14-day trial just so I could write the SDK. But a lot of the really sweet stuff, you gotta pay the big bucks. I don't know, maybe it's cheap. I don't even know. I literally did not even look at LaunchDarkly's pricing. It may be totally reasonable. But just keep that in mind. Some of the really cool stuff is tiered in their pricing plans. So go figure. Maybe Ortus needs to write our own feature flag thing where we charge people money.
Yeah.
We'll call it feature box.
It sounds like we're reinventing the wheel someone else already solved, Brad.
Well, no. Reinventing the wheel is fine if it means you get paid for it. I didn't say we should reinvent it for the sake of reinventing. I said we should reinvent it so we get all the money. That's what I said.
Well, I guess we'll see. I wonder if Unleash is an open source or free, or if it's paid account too. We'll have to look into that. I don't know.
Well, that's a good question. Eric also wrote the Unleash SDK. Basically because, again, there was a client of ours that said, hey, we want to use this. Write us an SDK, and that's what we did. So that segues into my next point, which is if there's a really cool library out there that you would like to use and they have a Java SDK, but there's nothing written for Cold Fusion, we seem to somehow specialize in cranking out SDKs here at Ortus. So
yep, we definitely do a lot of that. So yep. Okay, next up we have our our visual codes, hints, tips, and tricks of the week. So VS Code, and this week is going to be another video actually. So we're going to share the VS Code 1.61 release party. So September's version of VS Code was just released. Instead of giving you one hint or a couple of hints, this whole video tells you about all the new stuff that they have in VS Code, and so I thought that'd be a pretty good way to do it. And they have these VS Code videos. You should like and subscribe to this because every week they have a video now, and then every month when they do a major release, they have a release party and they have a live stream. You know, you get to ask questions. They basically walk through all the new stuff that's in VS Code. So they've got a idea. Yeah, I mean it's really neat. I mean it's kind of like what we used to do with Ortus. We used to do weekly and monthly webinars, sort of showing different things and going over stuff, and basically same type of thing. So VS Code's pretty popular. I'm sure they have a lot of people want to check it out. So this one already had 16,000 views from last Thursday. But it's got some cool stuff, and I think a lot of the extensions that everybody installs, like the parenthesis, like the bracket highlighting, is now built into VS Code, so you can actually remove those libraries, those extensions, and use the built-in if you want. So, but a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, so if you want to find out all the things you didn't know that you had available and you weren't using, you can go find out. Watch that video. It's on my watch list, that's for sure. Okay. So next up, we have our Patreon list. So I have to update this image here, just so you guys know. We've updated the Ortus website to show some of the more recent changes to our Patreons, and I just checked again today. The Patreon list has changed, and so we'll be updating again. But we want to thank everyone who's personally supporting us, Ortus Solutions, with our open source initiatives, which include CommandBox, ForgeBox, ColdBox, TestBox, ContentBox, etc. So without them, we wouldn't be able to do all the things we do, and this podcast is one of them. So remember, we are offering business annual memberships now. So if you want to pay and save 10%, you can get an annual membership. Bronze packages and up get ForgeBox Pro accounts and CFCasts subscriptions as one of the perks. And any Patreon supporter of any level gets the profile badge on the community website, and also their own private forum access on the community website. So Ortus's community site. Definitely take advantage of that, a little special attention, and you guys deserve it. So Brad, are you busy, or you want me to read the names?
Oh, I'm just complaining about the Elvis operator and CFML Slack. It's sort of a pastime.
Okay.
I can read the names though. Just as long as I don't have to use Elvis operator on Adobe Cold Fusion.
Yep, so we updated the list again today, and we're ordering it by the biggest contributors, so we're thanking them first, and also lifetime contributors tie into it too. So you'll see there's a lot of different people with different amounts and different lifetimes. Some of these names have been here almost from the start, so it's really cool
by
to see.
The biggest contributors, that sounds like fat shaming. Oh, you mean who gave the most money? Of course, yeah. Okay, yeah. So thank you to our Patreon supporters, John Wilson of Synaptrix, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Mario Rodriguez, Giancarlo Gomez, David Bellinger, Jonathan Brett, Jeffrey McGee from Sunstar Media, Dean Maunder, Joseph Lamry, Don Bellamy, Jan Yannick, Laxma, I never say the last name. You always do it good. Tirtoladi. Laxma T, that's what I call him. Carl von Stetten, Dan Card, Jeremy Adams, Jordan Clark, Matthew Clemente, Daniel Garcia, Scott Steinbeck from Agri Tracking Systems, Ben Nadel, Mingo Hagen, Brett DeLine, Kai Koenig, Charlie Earhart, Jonas Erickson, Jason Diger, Jeff McLean, Sean Oden, Matthew Darby, Ross Phillips, Edgardo Cabezas, Edgarcito, that's what they were calling him into the box, Patrick Flynn, Stephanie Monge, Kevin Wright, and Stephen Klotz. Those are our beautiful, amazing Patreon supporters.
Yep, for sure. Thanks you to each and every one of you. And yeah, we really do appreciate it. And if you want, ortusolutions.com/about-us/sponsors, you can see those names. And again, we're always updating them here. But yeah, the Reggaeton Edgato will be coming to an ITB near you soon. Hopefully the Latam one will be booked for early December.
Reggaeton.
Yeah.
Every reggaeton song sounds the same. They've all got that basic beat.
Yep. So for those who didn't know, Edgato made a scene teaching everybody how to dance the reggaeton.
Oh, he did something. We've got like animated GIFs of it now added into our internal Slack. We know who made those.
Good times. But yeah, so thanks, Brad, for reading that, because as Charlie says, my pronunciation is kind of amusing. So yeah, I think Tirohadi is how I say it, but it's probably not right either. So we've had several people give us videos to tell us how to say their names. So if your name is badly pronounced, or you want to change it so it was fixed, let us know. And
or if you enjoy us butchering your name, then just don't say anything, and we'll gladly continue to do it.
Yeah, for sure. At least you get some attention, right? Because everyone's like, they said your name wrong. But anyway, so everybody have a great week. Thanks very much. And yeah, we'll see you all next week. Don't forget Hackathon, Hacktoberfest. So,
all right.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernize.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.